the meantime here, I do want to put up this kind of preamble with bullet points outlining the key findings of the report here. This was posted by Fox News White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich. This is a summary of the report. The report was about 40-plus pages. And I'm going to read what's in this section here. So it says this, that in sum, the committee found substantial evidence of the following. From at least 2017 to 2020, Representative Gaetz regularly paid women for engaging in sexual activity with him. The next bullet point says in 2017, Representative Gaetz engaged in sexual activity with a 17-year-old girl. It goes on to say during the period of 2017 to 2019, Representative Gaetz used or possessed illegal drugs, including cocaine and ecstasy, on multiple occasions. Representative Gaetz accepted gifts, including transportation and lodging, in connection with the 2018 trip to the Bahamas in excess of permissible amounts. In 2018, Representative Gaetz arranged for his chief of staff to assist a woman with whom he engaged in sexual activity in obtaining a passport, falsely indicating to the Department of State that she was a constituent. Representative Gaetz knowingly and willfully sought to impede and obstruct the committee's investigation of his conduct. And lastly, the report says Gaetz acted in a manner that reflects discreditably upon the House. So, in the meantime here, there's a lot in this report. We want to talk about it now with our colleague and friend there at Fox News Radio, reporter Ryan Schmelz. He joins me. And Ryan, good to see you, and happy Christmas Eve here. But I have to just start our conversation by acknowledging and saying that this report acknowledged and confirmed, just in this report, that Matt Gaetz did have sex with a 17-year-old girl. I mean, I feel like that's the highlight of the finding of the report. Remember, he has denied that every step of the way, but that is what they found, and they put it in their findings right in the introduction.
That's right, Andrew, and that's where you hear a lot of this talk from the aftermath of this report, is that the Ethics Committee did find evidence that claims that Matt Gaetz on 2 occasions paid for and had a sexual relationship with a minor who I believe was in high school at the time. So that's where a lot of this fallout is kind of stemming as of right now. Now, like you said, Gaetz has consistently denied this report, and the Department of Justice chose not to pursue charges against Gaetz. And Gaetz has been very aggressive in combating this report ever since it has been released. I mean, as early as 37 minutes ago, we've seen Gaetz come out and have a statement on this. So he has been consistently trying to push back on this, but the report is now out, and the court of public opinion is now in with this.
All right, and Axios also has some reporting, Ryan, about the kind of inner workings and the inner mechanics of how the vote came down. Before we get to that, for our viewers who don't know, who comprises the House Ethics Committee? Is it equal Republicans and Democrats on both sides? Is split evenly down the middle, or no?
Well, actually, Andrew, this is one of the few committees in all of Congress that is split down the middle evenly. There's an equal number of Republicans and an equal number of Democrats. Now, there is an official chairman, Michael Gaetz of Mississippi, who is the Republican, and you have an official ranking member, Susan Wild, from the state of Pennsylvania. Now, from what we understand is that when this report initially came out, it was gridlocked on releasing it. They had planned on releasing the report before Matt Gaetz was selected as the Attorney General nominee of President-elect Trump. But when Gaetz decided to no longer be a member of Congress, then that's when you started to see some gridlock between the committee. Now, between then, somebody clearly has flipped their vote, and that has led to the release of this report. Now, who that person was, you know, there's 4 Republicans it could possibly be. We don't know who that is because, as you can expect with the House Ethics Committee, they're very tight-lipped on their operations. They try to prevent any leaks, and a lot of them do not comment publicly, and you're kind of seeing that right now.
I mean, Ryan, though, presumably those who did flip were Republicans, and they went against what Speaker Mike Johnson was saying. Remember, Mike Johnson did not want this report released, but neither did the chairman of the committee, Congressman Michael Gaetz, the Republican from Mississippi. Chad Pergam, our colleague, saying Gaetz says he does not challenge the committee's findings on Gaetz. but that he did not vote to release the report here. I have the statement in front of me. He says the decision to publish a report after his resignation breaks from the committee's longstanding practice and is a dangerous departure with potentially catastrophic consequences here. But this has been the line Gaetz has taken this entire time, correct?
He's been pretty consistent saying that, Matt Gaetz is no longer a member of Congress. Therefore, the House Ethics Committee no longer has jurisdiction over the report. And that's pretty much the same talking line that Speaker Johnson has used ever since Matt Gaetz made the decision to resign as a member of Congress. And what's interesting is that, you had this effort by some Democrats to push forward legislation. And you saw that from Sean Casten there from Illinois. He was the one who issued a resolution that would have compelled the House Ethics Committee to release its report. But you saw some pushback on that. And Jared Moskowitz, a Democrat from Florida, was one of those who had issues with this idea of using legislation to release a report and force the release of a report. And his argument was that, well, there's a lot of members of Congress, both Democrat and Republican, who currently have investigations with the House Ethics Committee that are ongoing. So it could pretty much compel maybe anybody to just say, you know what? I don't like this person. Let's force their ethics committee report to be released. And so he was kind of worried that this could set a bad precedent. And you kind of hear that a lot from some members of Congress who just are concerned that now that this is out and that there was a push legislatively to get this to come out, that it could maybe, set this bad precedent down the line.
Yeah, so we do have the statement in from Gaetz. This is on X. This is what he said. He was responding to, looks like, quote tweeting something. I can't see the tweet there, the original. But he says, this is why they didn't ever present these allegations in a forum where they could be challenged. Now, Ryan, we have to acknowledge Gaetz was fighting against this release tooth and nail up to really the 11th hour before this was released. He filed suit today against the House Ethics Committee. He sought temporary restraining orders to prevent the public release of this investigation. He argued media coverage would be immediate and widespread. He said also the committee's findings would carry the imprimatur of official congressional action. The suit also alleged that no adequate remedy exists to retract or correct information once released. And so, I thought that was interesting because obviously you can't put the cat back in the bag once it's released. And so obviously these efforts were ultimately futile on Gaetz's part to file this suit and to have a temporary restraining order against the release of this very report here. Was that kind of a foregone conclusion, so to speak?
I mean, I guess it is because the report's out. We've all had a chance to read it. We've all had chances to make copies of it. So Gaetz' efforts to essentially stop this from being released, it's been futile, like you just said. But at the same time, I think the big problem for Gaetz now is going to be the court of public opinion because, he survived the criminal side of this. The DOJ chose not to charge him with anything or even continue its investigation. It looks like he's passed the statute of limitations in the state of Florida, so he can't face any criminal charges there. But it doesn't look like Gaetz is going away anytime soon. He's going to have a cable news job in the near future. There's been rumors that he might be seeking potentially the governor's mansion in Florida. And I believe he's actually been teasing this himself because he went to a Turning Point event over the weekend. He was very talkative about this situation, teased the idea of running for governor, teased the idea of running for Senate, and then even teased the idea of potentially being a special counsel in the incoming Trump administration, which would be different from attorney general because he wouldn't have to be confirmed. So I don't think the idea of Matt Gaetz not serving in some capacity in the Trump administration is over yet, and nor do I think that he's out when it comes to running for public office in the near future.
Okay, can we just go back, though, earlier this month when President-elect Trump did tap him to be the next attorney general? Obviously, he didn't have the support even among Republican senators and withdrew from consideration here. Knowing what we know now that's in this report, you cover Capitol Hill. You were about to cover Matt Gaetz's confirmation hearings. Would that have also been a foregone conclusion now that this is out? If he were still in consideration, that he probably wouldn't have been confirmed over this report's findings. I know that's a hypothetical, but knowing your expertise on Capitol Hill and your reporting, can you say that?
Well, this was going to be an uphill climb for Matt Gaetz no matter what. And I think there was maybe a feeling among senators that Gaetz didn't have the votes to be the next attorney general. All it was going to take was 4 Republicans voting against him, and it could have sank his nomination. And I think that there very well easily could have been 4 Republicans who had issues with him. And it probably wasn't just because of the ethics report. I mean, if you talk to somebody like Chad Pergram or you just talk to anybody on Capitol Hill, it's pretty clear there's a lot of people within the Republican conference who just do not like Matt Gaetz. And it goes all the way back to his efforts to oust Speaker McCarthy, which were successful. And he created a lot of enemies just in that when it came to ousting Speaker McCarthy. And you saw some of those members of Congress who voted with Gaetz on the Republican side face primary challengers because of this. One of them did get ousted, and that's Bob Good. But also keep in mind, Bob Good did support Ron DeSantis in the primaries, so he had the scorn of Donald Trump, too, coming after him. But, there's a lot of Republicans who just have issues with Matt Gaetz just from how he's conducted himself throughout his time in Congress, and that goes beyond just this Ethics Committee report.
All right, Ryan Schmelz, as always. Do you think there's going to be any fallout? I know we're on the precipice of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day here. Will we still be talking about this come next week or no?
I think it really depends on where Matt Gaetz's political future is going to be. If, in fact, Matt Gaetz does end up in the Trump administration in some capacity, as he's teased potentially being a special counsel to look into insider trading for members of Congress, or if he potentially does run for Senate or governor of Florida, I don't think this is going away anytime soon, because I don't think Matt Gaetz is going away anytime soon.
I mean, Gaetz, time and time again, says federal prosecutors looked at this and ultimately decided not to charge him, not to bring an indictment, though some legal analysts are kind of fixating on this highlight, this bullet point in the summary introduction here, stating Gaetz knowingly and willfully sought to impede and obstruct the committee's investigation of his conduct here. So some feel that that bullet point right there could potentially criminally expose him if he was not being cooperative with the committee or did anything to kind of deter their efforts into looking into this. So we'll just have to wait and see. Ryan Schmelz, as always, thanks so much, and have a Merry Christmas.
Hey, same to you, Andrew. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. All right, in the meantime here, I want to just highlight that reporting I alluded to from Axios. Great reporting here from some of Ryan Schmelz's colleagues there on the Hill, including Andrew Sullender. He has it that Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic minority leader, said yesterday that there will be no Democrats available to save Mike Johnson. He said he and Aguilar, that's Pete Aguilar, made similar comments in caucus Friday. Henry Cuellar, one of the Dems' most centrist members, told Axios, quote, "I will follow leadership." Now, this is unrelated to the Gaetz Ethics Committee report. This is going back to the government funding showdown that was averted late Friday night, early Saturday morning, about whether or not Mike Johnson could survive a leadership vote among members of his own conference, i.e. Republicans and or Democrats. Would Democrats bail him out if he lost any Republican support? But you're seeing there in this new reporting from Axios that Hakeem Jeffries said there will be no Democrats available to save Mike Johnson. So I thought that was interesting. I wanted to get that out there as well. But Axios also has some reporting suggesting who the Republicans were that flipped their vote in the Ethics Committee. They're reporting that Andrew Garbarino, the Republican from New York, and Dave Joyce, the Republican from Ohio, did side with Democrats in voting to release the Gaetz report here. So remember that vote that was secretly held to release it. We reported on that last week. We now got the report. Now remember, we were not expecting the report this soon. We were expecting it before January 3rd, before the new Congress is sworn in, but I don't think anyone thought it would be coming out this soon here. Well, Gaetz has been on social media responding to some of the reports, allegations, and findings all day. If we could put some of that up here, we'll go through it as well. Like I said, he was at this Turning Point America Fest conference over the weekend, speaking in Phoenix, Arizona here. And this is what Gaetz rather, is saying. He's highlighting with screen grabs of the report of some of these witness transcripts and witness testimonials, saying in this one, giving funds to someone you're dating that they didn't ask for and that isn't charged for sex is now prostitution. He asks rhetorically. And you see the transcript there. He goes on to say, I'm accused of being at some party 5 years ago. He says, here is the gate log for that home in a community that checks DLs for entrance. He says, I'm not on the log. He says, the other attendees are. He says, but people who said they were on drugs say they remember me there. And you see the logs for entrance. He also says, do they also remember Jimmy Hoffa? Rhetorically and sarcastically there. So Gaetz is continuing to kind of get ahead of this on social media with yet another screen grab of some of these witness transcripts. In quotes, I never charged anyone anything. So you see them quoting that there. And of course, he is on the defense. He says this is why they didn't ever present these allegations in a forum where they could be challenged. And that has been Gaetz's rationale all along for why he thought this was an unfair process, for why he lobbied Kevin McCarthy, then House Speaker at the time, for the Ethics Committee to end this investigation. And that's been widely reported and widely documented that is one of the reasons why Gaetz lost confidence in McCarthy and went after him during the speakership fight from last year. Now, Mark Caputo there at the Bulwark has this, that Matt Gaetz's friend, Chris Dorworth, is demanding the House Ethics Committee issue a correction to its report that inaccurately summarizes his statements and testimony. He obtained the letter, which is via his lawyer. And his lawyer is a state representative there in Florida. Dorworth himself is a former Florida state representative. So, like I said, I asked Ryan Schmelz whether or not this story will be continued to be talked about throughout the course of the week, and I would venture to say it probably will. All right, we're at the top of a new hour. Live look there in Washington on Capitol Hill. Before we go to a quick commercial break,